Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and I'm here today with Bridgid Gallagher all the way from France. So how are you, Bridgid?
I'm good.
Great. So, I discovered Bridgid. I don't even know how I discovered Bridgid. I think I was Googling something useful for authors and her website popped up and she had this amazing download and she had all this cool information. And so I kind of just like glommed onto her and just forced her to be my friend. So luckily she's here with us today. And I think today's your debut novel release date, right?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. What is that book?
So Love at First Ink. It's my first, it's a romance novel, romantic comedy set in a small town and out today, which is super exciting and intense. So if I'm like shaking a little bit, that's why.
That is exciting. And did you go traditional or did you go indie?
I indie published, so I self-published it.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, it's great because I think I surveyed the audience here and about 80% are indie published. So
wow, that's super cool.
My friends, yeah. All right, so do you want to just give us a short synopsis about, Bridgid Gallagher and what you write and the website and everything?
Sure, yeah, I think, so it's kind of interesting because you asked me like to talk about myself and I feel like I'm in transition right now. So right now on my website, I have decided this year I'm traveling, so I've put a lot of things on hold, like my social media accounts, I've just stepped back from everything. I stopped blogging this year. So it's kind of in a weird place, but in general, what I have is a bunch of resources for writers who want to work on improving their blog, getting more traffic, and then also some stuff on social media marketing. And then things on just writing a novel, how to write a novel, things for like beginner writers. And so the biggest resources I have right now is I have a email mailing list that I still keep up for writers. And that's specifically just with resources for writers. And when you sign up, you get like my free downloads and e-course access and stuff like that. And then I have my fiction side now, which is just for people who want to read romance and hear things like book recommendations and book releases and join my private romance group where we talk about silly things. But yeah, so that's kind of my online home right now. And I've started posting a little bit on Instagram, but otherwise I'm just not on social media right now. So the best way to connect with me or to learn about all that stuff is just to go to my website this year at least. But
all right, yeah, well, it's good to focus.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I think for writing, it's just really helped.
Awesome. So let's go back to the beginning because this is your debut novel. So how did you get started with the BridgidGallagher.com site?
Oh my goodness. I actually started that site, I want to say almost a decade ago.
Oh my gosh.
I'm using the decade word, but I was like nine plus years. What is that, 10? So a decade. But I started that when I first started freelance writing right out of college. Right after I finished my degree, I started freelance writing. So I wanted just a basic website. And so I learned how to design it. And then I started freelance writing and people started asking me for web design help. So I started designing websites. So I actually worked as a freelance writer / web designer for a while. And that's how my website got started. And I didn't add the blog until, I actually had to write it down, 2012. So I didn't add a blog until much later.
So you don't do any of those services anymore, right? Do you do website design still?
No, I have some clients that became friends, and so I'll help them with stuff, but I try not to, and I've tried to move people towards things like Squarespace, where you just don't need to hire a designer, because I honestly just don't think it's that necessary, especially for writers, because it can be a big expense, and unless you are, a best-selling author who really needs a very specific brand, I think you can get away with something cheaper and easier.
Did you just start writing advice for authors and providing resources for them?
It's a great question. So my blog had, when I first started blogging, I had no idea what to write about and no one visited my blog. It was a very sad time. And then I connected with a group of writers who actually Jamie Morrow and Erin Funk, they're sisters, and they started this weekly blog hop. And it was just like, share what you're reading, share what you're writing. It was really fun and fantastic. And it was like, all of a sudden I had comments and people were visiting my blog and I really liked it, but it wasn't, the amount of traffic was still kind of ridiculous. And so I had a hard time. I was like, oh, I don't know if this is worth my time. I could be writing. Should I still be doing this blogging thing? And then I started doing a little food blogging just for fun. I love food and taking pictures of food. Like, it's so nerdy. Like, I'm that person who's like taking pictures of my food. No one will see these photos, but I will take like 20 pictures of my dinner because, you know, that's who I am. But so I started sharing photos and recipes, and all of a sudden I was just getting mobs of traffic. And I was like, I had this weird thing where I'm like, okay, I have this really great, if I blog about writing with writers, I get this great connection. People are leaving comments, I'm making friends, like, you know, we start emailing each other and helping each other with writing. And if I post these food photos and recipes, I get tons of traffic, but not people who are like sticking around to hang out. So it was like, there has to be something here that I can do. So I kind of played with it. I took a lot of courses and read a lot of blog posts and books, and just kind of put together the two and figured out that if I could provide really great value for other writers, kind of tap into some of the stuff that I had learned as a web designer and a freelance writer, then I could help people and provide value through my blog, and put that together with making it simplified, but a few other things like beautiful graphics and free signups and stuff like that. And then I figured out that I could kind of get the best of both worlds, where I was really connecting with people and getting comments and engagement and emails and the stuff that I really, really loved, but also just getting a huge surge of traffic, which was also one of my goals at the time.
Perfect. Yeah, and I mean, that's how I found you. So it worked.
Yay, nice. Which, by the way, I love that little intro story. Like, it's such a cool, I mean, I was like, I didn't know who you were before you emailed me. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I love that. I love the internet making that possible. It's so wonderful.
Awesome. So the next question is, and this comes up with bloggers all the time. So are you monetizing your blog or selling any products right now?
I am not. My focus, so I did do some services before in the past. So that's just in general. So no, I wasn't monetizing my blog at all. And I'm not monetizing my blog. And my reason for that, and the reason why I don't charge for, like, I have free courses on blogging and Pinterest, and I have free workbooks and ebooks and stuff like that. But I don't charge for any of it because my goal is to become an author, a fiction author. And so all of my time and money and investment is going towards that. And I figure if I can help more people, awesome, and maybe they'll read my books. But for me, it's I don't want to charge people for something that isn't my main focus, because it doesn't feel fair to me. Like, I want to help other people. I'm not the biggest, most awesome expert in the world. I'm not a huge author, or, you know, I don't have tons of experience. So for me, I feel like it wouldn't be fair to charge for that kind of stuff. And I'd rather build really good relationships. And then if people like my fiction, then they can buy my fiction. They could support me that way. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. But yeah, no, I don't monetize it.
Okay, good. I'm sure people listening are like, stop, Lisa, don't tell her to charge for us.
Yeah. I have had people email me to say, why are you not charging for this? Like, did you really, how much? I don't want to know how many hours you put into this thing. And it's like, yeah, don't ask me.
Because they're great. They look very professional. They're very well done. They're beautiful. So you just think, wow, I would have paid for this, but I'm glad it's free.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think, especially for writers, I mean, I didn't make money from writing. I mean, I'm starting, but like, I think so many writers, you're working a full-time job, or it's, you know, you're writing as a hobby for so long, and you have to, like, I think it takes so long to build up the skills you need to write books and to sell books and to market yourself. And I think that for me, if I can help people who are just like me, who are like, I can't spend $10 even on a course because I'd have to put that towards writing if I can.
Right.
It would be better to help those people. And I don't know, I would have appreciated it when I was starting out.
That brings us to the other topic. You did say it does take away from your writing, and that's kind of why you eliminated the social media, right? So is it like, how much does it take away? Like, does it take your brain focus and your time, or other things?
I think everything. I think for me, I have a tendency to add way too much onto my plate. So I actually was a part of a group blog also called the YA Buccaneers. And I love, it's just such a passion project. One of my best writer friends and I, we were like, we should start a blog. And it was when I thought I wanted to be a young adult fiction author, which, so anyhow, so we made this blog, and we had a whole crew of authors and writers who blogged, and it was just so fun and so wonderful. But it was such a time suck. Like I just, I put so much time and love and passion into that, and I had very little left over. So at some point I had to make a really hard decision to say, I can't, if I want to, I can't do all of it. You know, if I want to write fiction, I really have to pick and choose. So I do think the normal blogging, I think that if you're really good about time management, you can do both blogging and fiction writing. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I absolutely think that. I think you do have to pick and choose. And I also think that there's a lot of this feeling of like, oh, I have to be everywhere. I have to be on Twitter. If I'm going to have a blog, I should be on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and this, that, and the other thing. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, because I definitely started out as being, I have to be everywhere, was that you don't have to be everywhere. My blog, even without me blogging, I'm still getting a lot of traffic just because I have systems set up. So people are still seeing my blog posts, even though I'm not adding anything new. And my mailing list, I'm still adding subscribers. And I think, yeah, I just think that you don't have to pick and choose. You just have to get really smart about choosing where you invest your time and how you blog, and blog smarter. Just, I mean, depending on your goals. If you just want to blog for yourself, that's a totally different story. But yeah.
Okay. And that's just another add-on question. So for your blog posts, do you put dates in there?
I do date my blog posts.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so, I think. Yeah,
I was thinking if you don't put the date, right? You could kind of. I've noticed some authors will do that. So you're like, is this new or is this old? I can't really tell.
Yeah, I like having the date on there, just so someone can have that information to say, oh, she wrote this 2 years ago. Especially if I write about. Like I have a tutorial about PicMonkey, I think, and you know they've updated themselves, you know, since then. So I hate for someone to look at and be like, "Oh, this is new," and then have funkiness. So that doesn't really jive with me. But I've definitely seen authors who do that, and I totally respect it. I think.
Were there other romance authors or writers' sites that you tried to emulate when you put together your site or your blog?
You know, I love this question because this kind of taps into something. So I definitely read author blogs, and there's lots of beautiful sites out there. And especially when I was first starting out, there are a lot of things that were very inspiring to me as a young fiction writer. But in terms of my own blog, I really turned to online, like infopreneurs, like Regina of byregina.com, Melissa Griffin of the Nectar Collective, Helene in Between. Oh my gosh, I love her blog. But just, I looked at people, also a lot of food bloggers. So like Pinch of Yum, this couple, I don't know if you've seen the blog, it's beautiful. But I was looking, I think I've always read way too many blogs, by the way. But I found inspiration from design blogs and food blogs. And I think that helped me kind of step back from, I think sometimes if you're stuck in only looking at people who are right in your little circle, then it's sometimes hard to find inspiration or step out of that and just see, ooh, what can I do that's different? Or what are people who are sharing food blogs? What are they doing that's really awesome and amazing and could be really good for writers? So yeah, so I think that for my blog, a lot of the inspiration actually came from not fiction writers. But that's not to say there are some fiction writers who have such phenomenal blogs that are just like Victoria Schwab. Whenever she blogs, I'm like, I love this. Like she just is very good about sharing her publishing insights, her writing insights, and it's a very different format from the way I blog, but I love it.
So. Yeah, that's a good point too. You know, just because we're writers doesn't mean we only look at writer sites, right? Like you love the food, absolutely, and you got great ideas. I mean, I love fitness, and I get great ideas too, just to plug back into writer sites. So.
Exactly.
So let's talk about tools. And this will be great because everyone's getting a great bonus because you're a web designer, right? So what tools do you use, you know, to build your site, to create your, you know, the email list and deliver lead magnets?
So I cheat. I have, so my site's totally custom. It's like my husband made it. Oh. The web developer. So it's like, I mean, I don't have, it's not like WordPress. It's not, so it's totally, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but when we built it, I was really into experimenting and learning stuff because I was working on also making web apps. now I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Because everything feels a little bit more difficult. But so for websites, I often recommend using something like Squarespace. I really like Squarespace. They're not perfect, but they make it really easy and affordable to have a really sharp looking site that's super easy to update, and they have really nice features, I think, for writers. Yeah, so that's one of the tools where I'm like, don't do what I do.
Well, I think really the moral of the story is we should all marry a web developer. And then we don't need to worry about the tools.
It's like, can you please fix my website again?
And then maintenance is free. It's the best plan ever.
Yeah, pay in like dinner, you know, make your favorite dish. But yeah, I don't know if it's sustainable necessarily, but it's worked out. And this, I'm also really excited to talk about this. So I have like a writer, like my tools I use for specifically writing fiction or, you know, nonfiction. And then I have stuff that I use for blogging. And in writing this year, I discovered Ulysses, which I'm so excited about. I wrote a very long blog post about how much I love it, but it's really fantastic. It's a very minimal tool. It's kind of like if you've been using Scrivener, but you feel like it's a little too much or it's just not quite doing what you want, absolutely check out Ulysses. And it's only for Mac, which I know for some people is a bummer, but I really like it. It's just simple and streamlined and very just beautifully designed, but it has basically just what I want and nothing else, which I really like. I felt like with Scrivener, and I still use Scrivener, it was really good for me as a beginning writer, but I think a lot of the plotting and planning I do by hand. So I felt like Scrivener was a little too much, but I really like that. And I've started using it for blogging and organizing all my marketing materials and creating templates and stuff. So love Ulysses. That's my plug. They're not paying me, but and for yeah, I guess that's probably the main for writing. But I also just switched to MailerLite this year for my mailing list, and I love them. So they're really great.
What were you on before?
Oh, sorry, I was using MailChimp before, and I switched to MailerLite, and I've been really happy with it. I think, and I did a big giveaway for this book launch where I was giving away free downloads of my book to people who signed up for my list, and I used a weird combination of things, and MailChimp kind of let me down. I had lots of errors and people not getting a file and stuff like that, and so I was like, all right, that's lesson learned, you gotta switch. But I love MailerLite. I've had this one of the things I've helped friends with getting started with their mailing list, and with MailChimp I've had all these like detailed tutorials of like how to set up your list. Like, should be simple, but it's not that simple. And with MailerLite, I feel like I just point people towards it and you can get started on your own. It's very simple, but very powerful too, which I'm just really happy with it. So highly recommended. Yeah, I don't know if you want more tools, but
do you want to share? It's up to you.
So I'm like, I wrote this down. And you asked about, so for images, I use Canva a lot, and I recommend Canva a lot. I also have Pixelmator. I used to use the Adobe suite, like Photoshop. And I kind of am kicking myself because I got rid of it, but I can do what I need in Pixelmator, which is very similar to Photoshop and Canva. And I think Canva for writers, like if you don't use Canva right now, just go get Canva. So easy, so fantastic, just for making blog post images, social media images, things about your books, which I'm guessing most people hopefully know about it. And then for social media, I use Latergram for Instagram and Buffer for Twitter, and then Board Booster for Pinterest.
Great, awesome.
But yes, those are my tools. More than anyone.
Okay, so we talked about how to create your lead magnets. So do you actually create your lead magnets, those PDFs inside Canva?
I do sometimes, yes. It depends on what it is. I can use Ulysses also for that, or Scrivener.
Okay.
But if it needs to be sharp and pretty, then Canva works fine. Yeah.
All right. And so I know you're not blogging that much this year, but what was your blogging process, or what do you recommend to other people?
So that's a good question. So that's actually, it's funny. That's one of the number one questions I get about blogging. It's like, what do you blog about? Like, and you know, for people who want to blog. And I think I made a blog post that's like 50 blog post ideas for writers to help people get started. Because it's honestly, it's not that crazy. It's just think about the things that people are either always asking you, or you always hear if you're in Facebook groups for writers. Like, what are people always asking? What are they talking about? Like, I think also, this is different for fiction writers. So for me, I blog about writing for writers. But if you're a fiction writer, then things like the top 10 books that are just like your book, your favorite romantic comedies, your favorite urban fantasies with a strong female heroine, or whatever, you know, just getting things that you think people would be asking about or searching for. So again, if you're in groups, that's like such a good way to, or in forums or something, just the things that people are constantly asking about, blog about that. Yeah. I think for me, I now am at a point where I get so many questions from people who belong to my email newsletter that I never have a lack of things to write about. There's always something new, like, how do I write a book? I'm like,
wow.
Post. Maybe the book.
Right.
Yeah, no shortage of ideas. And that makes it really fun too. So I think that at some point, if you grow an audience, you know, whatever you start writing about, this is, you know, you kind of like hone your audience down. Then at some point, if you just ask people, they will tell you exactly what they want to know from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's good too. I mean, you could just think about things that you would want to ask, right? Like, you have questions, you're a writer, what would you ask somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, perfect. Yeah, and it's amazing. I think it's more, sometimes I think that question comes from just a lack of uncertainty, like, what will people want to hear? What works? And I think a lot of it is you just have to try and put stuff out there, and then you're going to get feedback and interaction, and there's going to be things that just don't do well. Yeah. And that's okay. You know, maybe just try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. It's confidence. Like, I got lost in the Buy Regina, where all of a sudden I just kept buying all of her products. They sounded so great. But once you read them, you're like, well, duh, I kind of knew this already. But just hearing confirmation that that's the right step to do almost makes you feel better.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Or just having someone, I think there's power to finding someone who can put things in a way that speaks to you. And you're like, oh, like, I knew that, but until I heard you put that in that exact way, like, I totally didn't get it. Like, it just didn't like hit home or whatever. Exactly. Finding that person for you, or multiple people, that's always like a really good thing. I think Regina is definitely a person like that for me. Like, she says things and I'm like, I knew that, but until you said it, like, I didn't totally get it.
Yeah, I think she's like a mind reader or something. Like, everybody who goes to her site, just since it's buying tons of products, she's like, yeah, I had that question and I wanted to buy that kind of guide too.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing. Yeah. I think right now she's giving away a lot of her stuff for free, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that too. She seems to be changing things up. Before, when you were doing blogging, how much of a time commitment was it? Like an hour a day, an hour a week?
That's a good question. It would vary. I think it would depend on how many blog posts I had out that week. But I would say 2 to 3 hours probably a week.
Okay.
For blogging.
And that's everything from drafting it to publishing it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and the scheduling the social media.
All right.
And that wasn't always the case. I think I would take a lot longer. I'd spend a lot more time when I didn't know what I was doing.
Are you a perfectionist, Bridgid?
Oh my gosh, I am. It's horrible. I think the number of times I would just read my post over and over and over again, especially when I was first starting out. Because I think blogging and having writer friends is kind of like just, you know, it's hard because you're like, they're going to catch my errors, my typos. It's horrible, and it's not.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I used to be like that, and now I'm like, let me just get it out there and just move on to the next thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's huge. I think getting to that point where you can kind of tell your critical mind to like take a back seat and share something and not worry as much. That's huge, a huge time saver.
Yeah. Yeah, because I kind of felt like you. I mean, I started a website, but I started thinking about writing years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had this novel just sitting there, and I finally just published it because I was like, you know, I've rewritten it 3 times. because that makes any sense. And I'm like, I'm just going to publish the latest version and just move on to the next novel, right? Like, I can't keep rewriting this.
Like, I can't look at it any longer.
Yeah. And I think that happens with blog posts too, because they're shorter and it's easier to try to perfect it. And then you read somebody else's post that's a little bit like yours and you're like, let me try to make mine more exciting like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think I'm glad I don't do that as often, because that's just a good way to make yourself crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Now, fiction, I have not gotten there yet. There's rewrite. So I guess it's edit now more.
Well, that brings us up to another question. Do you have a full-time day job, or is this your full-time?
I don't. Right now we are, like I said, we're traveling this year, and I was unemployed before this. So, yeah. So I stopped doing my web design and freelance writing. I stopped that totally. And I mean, I was still helping out clients, but technically I wasn't taking on new jobs. And then this year I'm totally not, well, I'm trying to make the fiction career work, which is really helpful to be unemployed for.
It will. Yeah, it'll happen. So there was this speech, I can't remember her name. I was at the New York Center for Fiction, and she said, I got a 6-month scholarship from the city. And we were like, really? And she's like, yeah, I had this 6-month scholarship to write, and it's called unemployment. So everyone then was trying to figure out how to get fired from their job, right?
Yeah, I think I should be, to be 100% honest, I have a very nice situation where my husband was working last year, and the year before. So he was working, and we both kind of took our cost of living down. We were just living very frugally. And so I'm very fortunate. Not everyone is in that position, which I know. Although I will say the more frugally you can live, like the better off you are in terms of being a writer. Right. Just the more expenses you can cut, the better, because I think it takes a while to get going.
Yeah, for sure. So that brings us back to the previous moral of the story: is marry a web developer.
Web developers.
Great advice, Bridgid.
We have a little link. These guys are looking for ladies, these men and women.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just like you, say a year ago, an aspiring romance writer, and they want to get started blogging? Or would you tell them not to blog maybe at all and just focus on their book?
That's so tough. So I actually wrote a blog post about, should I blog? Because that's another thing. I feel very much so that you don't have to blog. And in fact, a lot of times it's not a good choice. I think you want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. I think some people feel like they have to blog because it'll help them find an agent, or it'll help them get published or sell their books. And I think you have to be really careful with that and make sure that the amount of effort and research you're willing to put into how to blog fits the thing that you have, like the vision you have for your blog, and whether or not you'll meet that goal. So if I was speaking to someone who is in my boat a year ago, I'd say, stop doing all the random things you're doing and focus. No, but I think writing fiction, the more time you can give yourself, the better. So if you are working full time, or you have kids, or you just have a ton going on, I would just say write books, write more books, edit those books, edit them some more, and keep just pursuing that path if that's really what you want, if that's where your passions lie. And if you want to blog just to make friends and to have fun, like, go for it. Just don't put any pressures on yourself. No guilt about, like, the number of posts I've seen where they start, I'm so sorry guys, I haven't been blogging lately. And I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, this is your fun. Nobody, it's all good. If you're doing it for you, then it doesn't matter. But if you are if you're like, ooh, I want to build up, a mailing list like Bridgid has or whatever, then I think my recommendation would just be to learn as much as you can, experiment, find people doing what you want to do and talk to them, and just, be willing to experiment and learn. And
Good. Yeah, and I think it's another good point too, like, I think it doesn't have to be blogging. I mean, I vlog, right? Because I don't like blogging. And I think if you force yourself to do something you dislike, it takes up even double or triple the amount of time and energy, right? Because you didn't enjoy it.
Absolutely.
You love the food blogging. I love I love doing vlog videos. And so to me, it energizes and motivates me, and it helps my writing versus being like, oh, it's something I have to do for marketing, right?
Yes, that's perfect. I think that's, I think in terms of social media too, that's very fitting. Like, I think, I hear people say all the time, like, oh, I have to be on Twitter. I have to, oh no, I haven't been on Twitter this week, or I haven't been on Instagram. I hate Instagram. It's like, dude, don't do it. People will feel that. Like, they'll hate it. And I think finding things, if you love being, vlogging, like, that's awesome. That's wonderful. People are going to pick up on that energy, and they're going to want to see your videos. But if you force yourself to blog, if you force yourself to do whatever, be on Facebook, I'm enjoying it now because I figured out ways to enjoy Facebook, but I hate Facebook. It's taken me a long time. But anyhow, that's besides the point. But yes, I guess just find the thing that you love to do and do it, because that's the thing that will draw people, because they'll pick up on that happy, joyous energy, versus the sad, do my homework energy,
Yeah.
I think.
Exactly. And, if you find yourself spending time, I'm like you, well, so I love Facebook and I love Pinterest, but I hate Instagram. And, it was painful. And then people were like, oh, I have all these Instagram friends. I'm like, I don't understand. I have thousands of followers, but I'm not friends with any of them because I hate it. And so I'm just throwing a picture out there. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't respond to anybody because I can't stand going on that stupid app, right? So I think it does more harm than good. Like, people pick up on that. They're like, I don't even know why she's out here.
Who knows? Maybe you can fake it. I don't know.
Right? I can't. It's like I don't know if you ever watched. Did you ever watch Gary Vaynerchuk?
I read a book or two by him.
Yeah. So he's that social media digital strategist, and so he'll say, ABC is like YouTube, and CBS is like Pinterest, and you're right. So he's like, you don't have to be on all the networks, right? Just pick a couple that you love.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. I think that's so powerful, and it's such a time saver. I think it's just you don't have to be everywhere, and you can always say have a Facebook page or have an Instagram account and say, hey guys, I don't hang out here. If you really want to hang out with me, go over there.
Yeah, exactly. You can just do a boilerplate, like, I see that you found me, but I'm not going to be back. Are you over here?
I won't be here. Stay if you want, but
kind of like my friends and girlfriends and I were talking about, it's kind of like dating. You don't need to be on every dating app, right? You just need a couple.
Yeah. Focus. I feel like there's a word for that I'm kind of forgetting. But there's a good, Hillary Rushford. She's like amazing on the Instagram. I sound. But she was like, she talked about this where she's like, oh yeah, we were doing well on Facebook, but it just wasn't what she loved. And so she just put up a thing that said, hey, the party's over on Instagram or something. And I was like, I love that. And that stuck with me. And I didn't really fully experiment with this. And she's not the only person who said it. I feel like I keep hearing it. But yeah, I didn't really experiment with it myself until this year, I guess. I took a couple of breaks last year, but I've just been amazed. Like, the world has not ended because I stopped being everywhere on social media.
Exactly.
And especially with my book launch, people were like, ooh, are you sure you haven't been on Twitter? How's that going to go? And it's okay. Like, I mean, I don't know, whatever. I think terms of success and goals and all that are different for everybody. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't think it's just too much for one person to be everywhere at all times. And I think that the more writers that figure that out for themselves, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you already have a huge mailing list, which is really #1 for selling books anyway, not social media.
Yes. 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 Although I will say I'm a little weird because I have my email list for writers who are not necessarily romance readers. And so now I'm building my romance reader list, which is a very different group of people. And the skills to build them are very similar. So that's wonderful. I have that experience. And that's actually really nice too, because I've been playing with putting together another course on mailing lists for people. And I didn't really want to make something until I had experience being someone without a huge audience. So it's been really nice because I'm starting from, I had like 20 people to start on my fiction mailing list. I was like, oh, I remember this feeling. But yeah, so that's been really nice because I think I'm getting a little bit of insight that I could use to help people who don't have, a huge following, because I think that's where most people start.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you let us know where we could find you on social, where your party's at on social media, and walk us through your website.
Okay. Yeah. So like I mentioned, so my website right now is kind of in like a hiatus, like I'm pausing that, but I do have links to my email list. So I have an email list for writers, and that's just, if you go to my bridgidgallagher.com, there'll be a big to-do about it. It's just email dash newsletter. And then I have a email list for romance readers, and that is under bridgidgallagher.com/books. And they're all linked on my homepage, so you can find them easily. And I'm also sharing a little bit on Instagram, not very much. And then mostly where I've been active is in my Facebook group for romance readers. So that, if it's called Heart Candy, you can search for it on Facebook. It's a closed group, but it's super fun. We chat about all sorts of things yes, but it's very fun. If you like romance books, you'll probably like it. That's what I'll say. But so yeah, other words, I'm not really anywhere else online. But I will say, since writers are probably going to watch this, my email list for writers, when you sign up, you get all access to everything I've made for free. That's just to make it easy. So my blogging e-course, I have an e-course on Pinterest. And then I have like a novel writer's workbook, a blog content workbook, and then a couple of other downloads. So
cool. Yeah, and you guys definitely want to sign up, because Bridgid, like I said, when I asked her if she's a perfectionist, it's because everything looks so perfect. So and that's why everyone probably asked you, you could charge for this. So, like Bridgid said, I think once Bridgid hits the USA bestseller list and she has movies on Hallmark, I think she might start charging for these things. So you might want to get in now.
No, I'm just kidding. I just buy my fiction, take the stuff for free. I think honestly, the more writers in the world that are sharing information and helping each other, the better. That's my opinion. But I might at some point create some nonfiction ebooks, just because people have been like, can you please put these blog posts into an ebook, because it's killing me. So if I do that, I might charge for those, but not much. So yes, go to my website, enjoy. Thank you so much for saying such lovely things about my site too. That just makes me very happy.
Yeah, it's great. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you, and it's just a wonderful opportunity. So thank you.
Great. All right, everyone, I will leave links for all the things that we mentioned below. And if all else fails, you can just go to Bridgid's website and sign up, and you're going to get all the freebies anyway. Bye, everyone.